Oh my goodness, we are back, everybody. I am so happy to bring you another brand new episode of At the Elephants. This is going to be a fun one today. I had over my friend, my classmate, the very lovely, the very talented Miss Megan West. Many of you might know her as Megan Stanky because that's her name. But as you can imagine, she changed to West. And we talked about that all in the first episode of this show, actually. Megan was one of the first guests on this show when I started it in New York. One of the things that I love about my relationship with Megan is it didn't really start until we did this show together, because even though we were in the same class, for anyone who knows anything about the way the drama school works, they split you up into groups and you kind of ride with that group for a majority of the year, and then they mix it up a little bit halfway, and then you ride for the rest of the year with that same 14 people. And we were just never in the same group. We never ended the same classes. We actually didn't even do a play together until April of our senior year together, which, that's your first chance to really get to know someone who's working on a project with them. So we kind of got to know each other on that, but it was a big show. It was a fast show. Not big as far as casts or anything like that. It was just a lot to do in a short amount of time. And, I was the assistant director. She was in the cast. So we really didn't get to know each other. A year after we graduated, I started this podcast, and I just started hitting up everyone I knew in New York, and I wasn't really particular about who I was talking to. I wanted to talk to everybody. And, of course, I wanted to talk to Megan. She's so awesome and fun, and she's a really cool person. But right after I started this podcast, she got a pretty cool job that we talked about at length on the show then, and I think we brought it up again in this conversation. And that was her role as Lila Stangard on How to Get Away with Murder. She was the subject of the murder mystery for the whole first season of that new Shonda Rhimes show. So I definitely advise you to go back, if you get a chance, listen to Megan's old episodes, which I believe are, she's been on twice. She was on episode 1, where we had our first interview, and we talked about all that. And then we did an update Skype interview for episode 5. Where we talked about her role on Constantine and some other projects she was working on. Well, it's been a long time since How to Get Away with Murder. It's been a long time since Constantine and all that kind of stuff. And we get down to all that stuff in this awesome interview that I had with Megan. It just kept going. I planned on hitting cut, and we just kept talking. So I did eventually stop the tape. I feel bad you won't get to experience the entire conversation we had that night, because it's funny that, like I said, I've gotten to know her over the course of these podcasts far better than I ever knew her before. Simply because even in all 4 years of school, we never got a chance to sit down and just talk. And so that's what we've done for this. We talk about all sorts of new projects she's got going on, playing Miss Texas in this Facebook Watch program with Catherine Zeta-Jones, the pageant show. We're going to talk about that. But I really had quite a wonderful conversation with Megan. She's very insightful. And I'm super excited to see where her career goes. It's kind of been nothing but exciting things back to back as far as I can tell. So enjoy my conversation with Megan. We got new episodes coming every week. I've already got 6 episodes in the can, guys. They're all just sitting there waiting to be heard by you. We got Kim Ross from DMP heading up Alumni West out here, along with Amy Werner and all those wonderful people who are in the alumni program. Just put together the Real Talks program. We're going to be talking to her soon. Magdalene Vick, Drama 2010. We're going to talk to Morgan Sellers from Wig and Makeup. We got Aiden Crowley just a couple years ago from film. He's out here running a company with Wes Webb. It's going to be great. Just tune in for all these fucking great episodes coming forward. But for now, here's my conversation with Megan West. I gotta tell you, I've only ever watched 2 Shondaland shows in my time. The first one was when I was at my first college before NCSA. My after-school job was at Blockbuster Video.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Love those.
For real.
Love them.
And I'm old enough to have worked at Blockbuster in college.
Wow.
So feels good.
Wow.
So anyway, I got hooked on like Grey's Anatomy at the time, and I watched like the first 4 seasons. It's still fucking on, I think, right? And is it finishing up or something? No end in sight. I love it. I watched like first 4 or 5 seasons, had a fun time, but I kind of fell off. But it was pure boredom. Like, I worked at the Blockbuster, so I was watching everything like that I could get my hands on.
Could you get Grey's Anatomy?
Yeah, we had the DVDs, so I would like bring a disc home, and then I would take it back, and then I would bring a disc home, and I would take it back.
I didn't. Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't think Blockbusters were still around when we were.
So when I was working at Blockbuster, it was definitely at the tail end, but they had their own competitive Netflix thing. And this was before Netflix was streaming. Netflix was still DVDs sent to your house. And so Blockbuster also had one called Blockbuster Online. And that was like my job. They were really
trying to do
they were trying to steal that
effort.
Mm-hmm. And my job was to sell that on the floor.
Okay.
So when it was slow, there was not a lot to do at the video store. And I watched a lot of Grey's Anatomy. And that show is like such a weird show to binge because it's fucking raining all the time. It's like always raining, and so there's positive episodes, but there's a lot of sad.
Lots.
Oh, it's lots of sad.
So many sad.
Oh,
episodes.
So much sad and so much rain.
So much drama.
And so
it's Shondaland.
I finally got, I never got into Scandal. I missed that one somehow.
Me neither.
But then my fucking friend Megan dies on this TV show, and I still watch it. I'm still watching a fan.
No.
Yes.
No.
I am.
I don't even watch it.
I know.
There's so much television. It's just like when you're on, like, I really think actually TV shows should now just be like a succinct 3 to 5 seasons maybe.
Well, and that's always been, as I understand it, the British mantra. Like, that's their style, is they set out to do a set number. It's often 3. And
I'm half English. That makes sense.
But that is an increasingly popular trend. The really good TV shows, I think, have done that. Lost did that. Breaking Bad did that.
You gotta get out when it's good.
They're like, we're gonna do 6.
Yeah.
Well, and it creates a dynamic where you're writing towards something instead of just barreling down the forever.
Unknown ending,
which is exactly what How to Get Away with Murder feels like. Every season I like, okay, they're working towards something, but next season I'm like, though. We don't know.
They
now
don't want to end it.
No, 100%. And I am so in love with Viola Davis on that show. I'm so in love with Matt McGorry.
Oh, I love him so much.
He's great.
And he's such a good
I met him.
Such a good person.
I met him on
I'll see him like once a year.
I think I text you. I met him on Battle of the Network Stars.
Yeah.
And we talked about that. Yeah, I was like, oh yeah, my friend's Lila Sandgren. Yeah, that was a fun day.
He always made me feel really welcome on set. It was so nice.
Well, and
I love people like that who take like the little ones
and he's like a serious activist. He's like a die-hard activist, and like I try to keep up, but like I couldn't be as woke as that dude if I tried, and I try.
He
but
knows things
I can't try like him.
Other people know.
He's like, oh, what are you doing? You're doing a scene over there? Are you studying your lines, or are you reading about privilege? Because that's what I'm doing over here. Like, that's what it looks like on his Insta. He's like,
exactly.
Just got to catch up on my privilege reading. And I'm like, dude, I wish I was getting it going like that.
Yeah, I'm just here to live my life.
So we talked, oh my God, 5 years ago? Is that right?
So long ago.
I have it right here.
It was pretty much when we graduated, right? So I graduated 6 years ago.
I think it was like a year later.
Okay. Yeah, because I would have had to like work a little bit.
May 2014.
Oh, wow. 2 years after we graduated.
Mm-hmm. It was no, 1 year.
Oh,
2013,
sorry.
Megan.
Math.
And then, yeah. So, and then we talked again via Skype. And I did not re-listen to that, if I'm being honest.
That's fine.
I didn't, because I have them as 2 tracks. I would have had to combine them, and
Otherwise, I would have just been listening to your answers to my questions. But that was, when was that? Hold on, I have that too. That was in September of the same year. So we talked a little bit later in the year, and we talked about, I do remember what we talked about, though, a little bit, because you only really talked about work-wise. You talked about How to Get Away with Murder, and then the next one we talked about Constantine.
Oh, yeah.
If you remember that.
That was a wild one.
Yeah. And then there was one other thing I think that you had going on at the time.
I did. That was a good year. Public Morals, probably.
Maybe.
It's a TNT show.
Sure.
One season.
How was that?
I had so much fun because no one told me what to do. I just showed up and they dressed me in these 60s outfits and I was just like, I'm going to do my thing. I was like, and I had so little, but it was like just the right amount where I could really play with it.
I'm trying to think. I feel like I've seen stills of that or something.
Yeah,
Were you
I got
wearing
to work
green?
with, I wore green ones. I got to work with Brian Dennehy,
He
was 77 at the time.
I love Brian Dennehy.
Did I tell you the story about
No, let's hear the Brian Dennehy story.
Oh, okay, so he was
enough of
talking
them.
about Frank Sinatra like they were like chums, and I'm like, that's cool.
Oh, Frankie boy.
Yeah, and so I was like, oh, that's cool. So this is the type of actor I want to be. So we were about to break for lunch, and we were going to turn around to my side, and one of the PAs runs over and was like, hey, we're going to let Brian go. He's a little older. We're just going to let him get some rest and stuff. And Brian overhears this, and he goes, absolutely not. That's not acting. I'm staying. And I was like, you're so dope.
That's
like, I totally would have respected. Like, it's not like I would have disrespected if he'd left, because you're 77. Like, I don't know what that feels like,
Right.
And he was like, absolutely not. And also, he was just about to do a play on Broadway that's a 5-hour play. And he's like, yeah, 5-hour play.
That's crazy. I mean, that's how Gerald was when we were at school. I mean, right, before he had a stroke, even all the way up to it, it was like, his lights were still on at 10 o'clock, and it was like, go home. You have to go get some rest.
Yeah.
And it's like, the people who are still working at that age at all are doing it for a reason.
Yeah.
I think for sure.
Absolutely. And that just taught me exactly. It is an act. And I now have worked with other people who leave, and I have to work with tennis balls and X's on cameras, and you're like, then I watch my work and I just have to be like, you know what? Like, it's pretty damn good for not working with another human being.
For sure.
Like, I have to be kind of proud of myself.
Yeah.
Like, I know, of course, like, it could be more magical because,
right.
when you just have human energy, human body, like, across from you, there's an imagination,
So what are you working, tell us what you're working with the tennis balls on. I mean, you're not, were you in Game of Thrones? Did I miss that?
No.
were you fucking doing scenes with dragons, or what's up?
No. I don't know if I can say.
Well, I mean,
I can't say who does this. But just like, yeah, a show I worked on.
A show you worked on.
On what I worked on, yeah. Because you would know if I said the show.
Okay, hold on. So I just want to make sure that I'm understanding what you're saying right. You're saying that you did a TV show where you had to act a scene with someone who wasn't there because they were too big of a deal to be there that day shooting the scene with you. Okay.
They have only a certain amount of time during the day. There's a lot of stipulations, and sometimes they will just leave, even if they're not at their time yet. Like,
right.
I'm like, we haven't passed 10 hours. Why have you left?
Right.
Or, I mean, not that she was also much help if she was turned around. I just said she was a she. So, well, that there you go. Now you can try and...
No, I have no idea.
Listens.
I mean... well, first of all, nobody.
It's just very frustrating.
First of all, nobody listens to this, so you just cool your jets.
Right,
Don't worry about it. No one gives a shit.
I know no one's gonna really like do a deep dive.
Unless your last name is Francisconi, and then you might get 500 views. But other than that,
exactly,
that's where it tops out. No stress about it. So yeah, let's talk about work a little bit, because that's not the only thing I want to talk about. This is not, and that's the thing that I think is funny when I've talked to people doing this show, is it's like, oh, I don't know what I would say. And what they mean by that is I haven't done enough in my professional career to come on and like list my resume for you. And it's like, well, why the fuck would I want you to do that?
Yeah.
I'm absolutely not interested.
Also, we need to learn how to live our lives, and I wish they taught us that in like school. Like,
Right.
don't worry just about the work, because if you forget to live your life, then you're not going to have life to like recreate. So worry about.
And it'll catch up to you if you're not
Oh,
living
yeah.
your life.
Oh yeah.
All
caught
of a
up to
sudden
me
your
for
life will come
sure.
knocking and being like, hey, live me, or
Yeah.
I'm going to sink your career down the toilet. And you're like,
Exactly.
all right,
You're
all right,
like,
cool.
cool.
Yeah, that's for sure a thing. So, all right, well then, let's talk about work. What are some of your favorite projects you've done since we last talked? It's been 5 years.
Yeah.
It's been 5
5
years
years.
since we talked last.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
I know. I'm like, what have I done? Yeah. Did I talk about the play that I did?
You did a play
I did
in the last
an
5 years?
Broadway play. Yeah,
talk
with
about the play.
Peter Dinklage and Taylor Schilling. and-
Maybe you were talking about being on the verge of that on the last
I
episode
might have booked
thing.
it.
Yeah. 2014,
No,
is that too far
I was
back?
going in for it then because I
Okay.
didn't book it till like November. I have the picture of me on
Yeah.
Public Morals where because I was working on Public Morals. The hairdresser just cut my hair in the most effed up way I've ever seen, and I was like crying because she cut my hair in such a bad like she bullied me to cut my hair, and after crying, I get the phone call and like I take like a selfie after I'm ready and stuff of me just like how excited I am, and I look like the biggest dork ever to do this play. I mean,
So what was the play? I remember seeing
It's called-
the billing, and that's it. I know nothing else about this play, so
well,
tell
it's
me.
called A Month in the Country. It's Turgenev.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, you know who he is?
No.
So basically,
I'm a bad
Chekhov-
theater student.
No, don't worry. The only way I know about this is because I did it. Like I knew I knew nothing about it. I will.
You weren't a
I will
big
say, like I'm very
Turgenev
thankful
fan before you
for,
got the role?
No, I was not. So actually, I learned about this. Chekhov stole from Turgenev. So have you you've heard of The Seagull?
I have heard of the sequel.
So A Month in the Country is basically The Seagull's ripoff. So I basically played the character of Nina, but my character was called
Gotcha.
Vera.
Okay.
And the whole thing is
Is basically the sequel?
basically The Seagull. Chekhov
That's
ripped him
amazing.
off. Had no idea.
Wait, so yours is the original? Mm-hmm. Gotcha.
Turgenev is before Chekhov. Ours was rewritten and like tried to make like new age. It was shortened. It was like 2.5 hours. I don't know.
Right.
It was shortened, and I don't even think we had an intermission. And for the new American audiences who all have very short attention spans, and
What was the overall runtime?
maybe 2 hours and 30 minutes.
That's not too bad.
No,
I just went to see
maybe
the
it was
new
less.
Avengers. I sat through 3 hours
I hear
starting
it's
at
amazing,
midnight.
though.
It's really good. It was really great. I
Wow.
can't believe it was a fucking 3-hour movie though. It's
Man.
crazy. Like I absolutely, we don't have to talk about that, but I absolutely cannot believe this is what's strange to me. Mm-hmm. People will sit through 3-hour movies, and you ask people to sit through a 3-hour play, and they lose their fucking mind. And I think that's crazy. I don't get the false equivalency. You know why? Because I don't want to sit through a 3-hour either fucking one. I don't have a 3-hour attention span. It's just I'm that modern audience. I can't handle it. I wish. I mean, I went to theater school. I did August Osage County. I've put the time in, and maybe that's another reason why. Because I've spent hours watching the same shit over and over
Yeah.
again. It depends on what it is. If it's like a classic or something like that, and seeing it done and it's like uncut, something like that, and I could say like, oh, I've seen that done with like, totally unedited like that. Okay, sure. That's an interesting thing to say. But again, I'm going to go see that play one fucking time.
Yep.
Wiley would go at school, see these plays that our friends were in that are like 2.5, 3 hours
pretty
long.
long.
And I'm like, bro, you went and saw it 4 times? Are you joking?
I know.
I mean, sure, I've rewatched The Office too many times, but like, that's different. That's in little pieces. That's 20-minute segments. That's
Yeah.
not going to see 4-hour plays.
No.
Oh, I don't know how they did it. And then I would feel like a shitty theater student because I wasn't going to see the plays 4 and 5 times. I was like,
Oh,
I got it.
man.
I got it.
I definitely wasn't. I did not know a lot of stuff. I did not know a lot about plays. I still don't.
Do you feel like a good theater student? Like, are you a theater student now? Like, you know, we have our degrees or whatever, but like, do you know what's going on Broadway right now?
Yeah. Well, I was just
You know
in
what's
New York.
popping?
I mean, kind of. I love the theater.
Sure.
Yeah, I
I love the theater too. I just don't. I'm bad at having my finger on the pulse. I love to go see
Yeah.
plays too, but like I hear about movies and TV so much easier, and
And
so
it's
I
so
put a little bit
accessible.
of, maybe I put a little bit more effort into that too, because I think it's just a little more interesting to me for whatever reason.
Absolutely.
Um,
Well, I was actually really shocked when I first moved to New York. I didn't see that many plays, but like when I did, I was quite disappointed. I was like, I think we were spoiled a little bit in school in the
Sure.
sense of like, I mean, we knew when the shows were gonna be bad. Like you just like knew certain directors were like, we all know this show
oh,
and
for
who
sure.
directed it, so
Oh yeah.
we're going in. Also, we know the play, but like other shows, like any Sconey show, any like Lang show, all, you know, of course, Gerald show, all were absolutely incredible. And maybe
Yeah.
was a little washed back then, but
No, but we also watched Garbage at the same
Yeah.
time, and that was the best part, is we get the full thing. And we had plays directed by teachers that made no sense, and the play made sense. You know what I mean? It's like, how did you manage to direct a play that now we can't even follow?
yeah.
So it's like the full spectrum of like going to see that, and then like Our Country's Good by John Langs, and you're like, all right, so I'm gonna go cry for a week and a half.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's the show that made me go to NCSA.
I can't blame you. I loved that one. So was your Turgenev play good? Was it any good? Be honest with me. Everyone did a great job. We love everyone. Good job,
no,
everybody. But was
I'll-
the play any good?
This has been so long.
I know.
Okay, so it was great in rehearsals.
Mm.
And then, unfortunately, I think our director squeezed it so tight. She was so nervous about it being kind of her first, like, possible thing to, like, be on her own and be independent and be seen as a director, that when we went into previews, all of our notes were through fear. We would just get pages of notes, and, like, she'd leave it on our dressing table and then just run away. And we couldn't talk to her about it. And so as far as the play goes, I think it was really great. And then we became terrified. And then once it's set, you can't change.
Yeah, you have to do the play.
You have to do the integrity of the director's play, which...
Unfortunately, when it got sealed in stone,
Yes.
it was not done. Right.
So I thought it could have been great, but then we tried to kind of change it up when she left. We tried to let it breathe, but then the stage manager had to bring the director back because we added more time, because we were we were actually breathing and living the life rather than like just getting through
Tense
it so
and
she
fast
doesn't
and-
like,
Right.
because she was so upset with this one scene. I mean, I will say I got very lucky. Every review slandered everybody but me.
Did they say nice things, or they just forget about you?
No, they said nice things.
That's
Literally,
awesome.
the New York Times, like one of the meanest.
Is that your first New York Times review that was
Yeah.
like you were in?
Literally at the very last paragraph, it's like Miss West's performance is like the only thing worth seeing.
What?
I was like, I don't know how that happened, because the entire time, like, I was in so much fear from this director.
They tore up Taylor Schilling and Peter Dinklage?
Oh, for sure.
Oh, man. They hold those
Ripped them
TV
apart.
and movie stars high.
They
the
do,
fucking
and
standards
I
when
feel
they do
bad.
theater.
I feel bad.
What do you
because-
think? You think they were good? They're not going to listen to this. They don't give a fuck.
I thought Taylor's really smart.
I like
She's
both
a
of them as
smart
actors a lot.
actress, like, for sure. I think Peter on some days was great. I think some days he was lazy.
How long did
because
you run the show?
He was also doing Game of Thrones at the
Sure.
time, and like flying to Ireland to, like, you know. So I was like, yeah, you have bigger fish to fry right now.
He's been shooting films pretty consistently as well. I mean, he had. I would imagine around that time he was doing X-Men. He was in one of those flashback X-Men movies that takes place in the 70s or whatever, and he's like the one who's like the racist
Probably.
who's trying to shut down the mutants.
Oh yeah.
which is, the whole irony of that being, a
Yeah.
little person. But that was your first time, was that your first time acting on stage
Yeah,
with
it
like
tainted-
celebrities?
It tainted stage for me for a while.
Mm.
Because also I was bullied because I was still doing How to Get Away with Murder at the time.
Bullied? What are you
And,
talking about?
So in equity, if you have an opportunity to make more money than what the play pays you, which, if anybody knows, New York theater doesn't pay anything because they have to pay very big rent bills, right? So I got the opportunity to, during one previews week, to take off 2 days. So I would need an understudy. But they basically tried to bully me out of it. I mean, I'm totally glad I stuck to my guns somehow. And I was like, no, I made a commitment to these people before actually this play. And I want to fulfill it. And if it's just missing like one matinee and like a Sunday night performance,
Right.
I don't see the big deal. And they were like, well, she's going to need rehearsal time. So that's going to limit your rehearsals. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. But instead, she basically took away all my rehearsal time. Most of it. I rarely
man.
got to run things. But you know what? I just took it as fire. It fueled me.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, you know what? I actually learned from that girl. And I'm like, I'm going to watch her. It actually gave me ideas, different
Right.
things. I was like, this is cool for me.
Yeah.
And I would do it on the side, and sure, it would feel weird when I finally got put in, but
Right. And you kind of got everything you needed out of that job. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like most people didn't get a lot out of the job, it sounds like, because it didn't, leave positive taste in everybody's mouth except when it came to you. So
yeah,
sounds like a win-win.
I really lucked out, and it
Yeah.
was crazy, and I was living that life of flying to LA, early morning, getting into costume, filming for 48 hours, and
Right.
I actually got to shower at I don't know if you'll ever know this. How do you pronounce it? Zachary Quinto?
Mm-hmm.
Is that how you pronounce his name?
Mm-hmm.
In his shower.
Nice.
Because I just flew in, and my friend was house sitting for him, and his house was close to our stage, and I got to shower before the
Very good.
play. So it was crazy.
Spock shower. Very
Yeah,
good.
right? He probably doesn't live there anymore. I'm like, it was nice, but it wasn't
It's so strange how those things work out, and I think it's weird to, I don't know, would you have thought when you were in school that you could do a play with Taylor Schilling and Peter Dinklage and it wouldn't just be the single greatest thing that ever happened to you?
Oh,
You know
for
what I mean?
sure.
You hear all those details before you get involved in any of it, and then before long you're like, oh, right, it's cool, it's actually just a job.
yeah, it becomes a job. It became
Yeah.
it was kind of like a little bit of an imprisonment, because also there's a scene in the play where I have a mental breakdown on stage. And this is something I wish more actors know, is take care of yourself if you have to do that, instead of don't wake up every morning with the idea of I have to start preparing for my mental breakdown. You actually should be doing the opposite things. And I actually this is part
Oh,
of when I
God,
got really
Megan.
sick. And
You're also
because
not eating
I
meat
gave
at the same time.
Yeah, I gave everything to that play.
Mm-hmm.
Everything. Because also, another scary thing, we're taught in school, directors are gods, right? Directors are captain of the ship. You don't listen to anybody but them, which is also untrue.
Yeah. No, they didn't
We
teach
can
us
listen
that.
to they didn't teach us that, though.
They may have been
you
teaching
don't
the
talk
actors
back.
that. They didn't teach us that.
No. I learned it the hard way,
Jill taught
of
us, you're a
course.
piece of shit, shut up and listen.
Exactly.
You know
And
nothing.
We know nothing, and they are all knowing, and that's how I went into it. And so when we were in rehearsals and we found where the scene lived,
Right.
she came up to me and she goes, Megan, it can never be less than that.
Mm.
And that's a terrible thing to say to someone, especially like me.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, oh my gosh. So I never let that scene breathe. So I was every single morning prepping for that mental breakdown.
Right.
And so my body went into fight or flight mode. My
Yeah.
everything stopped. I was so skinny. I was not I wasn't a
Someone-
human.
They just didn't know you.
I was a mess.
Because I feel like I don't even know you as well as maybe people who are very close to you, and I still would be like, maybe don't give Megan a standard of perfection
Thank
that she
you.
has to fucking murder every single time.
Yeah,
you
if
know
anyone
what
just
I mean?
like slightly knows me, they knows my standard of
Yeah, it's like,
perfectionism.
well, it's just like I'm the same way. Like I'm exactly the same way, and it's like don't put me in a situation where your expectation of me has no room for adjustment or
Yeah.
evolving or anything like that, because I am never going to be satisfied with doing the same thing over and over again, which is one of the reasons why I love and hate theater, because it's like I could never, man, directing works great for me, but like I could never be an actor on Broadway, because the idea of doing 8 shows a week and doing the exact same performance 8 times. I mean, I'm a comedian now, and I don't want to do my exact same act 8 times a week exactly the same
interesting.
way. Not even kind of. I mean, I talked to other comics about that too, which is like I watch other comics be better craftsmen than me because they can get up and practice the exact same routine over and over again, and I get bored with that. I'm too like, for example, every Sunday I host open mics at 8, 9, and 10. So they're 1 hour long, and I have to start off with 5 minutes of stand-up and open the room. And I gotta have 3 5-minute sets every Sunday night. I can do
wow.
the same thing. I can do the same 5 minutes every time. Do whatever the fuck I want. It doesn't matter. There are no restrictions on it. I can literally just get up there and bitch about my day to the
That's
room if I
crazy.
wanted to. I'd be a bad host.
Does that freedom scare you?
No. No, I
not
love
at
it. It doesn't. It's not that it scares me. Is that it intimidates me away from being a good craftsman, which I do know how to do because I fucking went to school for it. What I should be doing, as well as other things, is I should be working on a tight 5-minute set that I can do just boom on the fucking fly,
Right.
and do it, and every moment of it is funny. I know it all works, and practicing until I get that 5-minute set. I get bored with that. I have like dozens of jokes that are pretty good. I have a few jokes that are great. Not a lot. A few. If I spent more time trying to get the pretty good ones to be great,
Like
I would
polish it.
have more great jokes, but I'm more like, oh, this is pretty good, and then I throw it aside and I want to work on something new.
Right.
And that's one of the reasons I love TV, is because better or worse, and almost plays too if they're short runs.
Yeah.
Better or worse, you put it out there and you're like, well, that's whatever that was.
Yeah.
And you just move on to the next fucking thing. Like, I get, Dave Brown's back on Book of Mormon.
Yeah.
And he's been doing it for a minute.
So long, I feel like.
It's a dream role.
Yeah.
Right? But I could never. If I got booked on a tour as a stand-up comic,
But I feel like that's also very Dave Brown.
I don't know, maybe. He's great at it.
He's so good at it. Like, I remember watching him in school and being like, wow, like, his level of attention. There's certain actors that when they show up, their work is done.
Correct.
And it is correct.
And
it is
Dave does-
right. And that was him. When I
I've
would
directed
watch him,
Dave,
I was
and
like,
Dave brings you, and once you set Dave in stone, it's the same.
but it's amazing still.
Yeah, no.
That's what's
It's organic
profound.
and authentic every time. It's also deeply upsetting because you want to try to remember he's a human being. And I remember working on complete works of Shakespeare with him and Alex Heffler and Brandon, and they would go to rehearsal for St. Joan, not a funny play, and then get out at 11, and then we would work till 1
my
doing
gosh.
Shakespeare. And they had to get out of a 4-hour rehearsal after a full day of going to school,
Yeah.
and then come be funny. And then we had to make decisions and then nail it down and do exactly that every time. And there's no way we could have done that if it hadn't been for all 3 of them having that ability. And I don't. I used to act in comedies when I was growing up, doing plays, musicals. I would get constant notes from the stage manager. It was like, stop ad-libbing.
Oh,
Stop
wow.
adding lines.
Yeah.
Just say the lines that are in the play. And I'm like, I'm bored. I'm so
you're
bored saying the same
done.
line. They're like, those lines work. And I'm like, I bet I could come up with some more that are you know what I mean? Like, but that's why stand-up works for me, is because even if even if I was bought and paid for an hour of stand up, if I
Uh-huh.
show up, there's no promise of every single joke I'm going to tell. That's not how it works. You know, it's
Yeah.
like they expect my act to be something. I can't show up, I can't audition or send them a tape of me being a prop comic for an hour and then show up and do one-liners or show up and do stories that are like introspective. They're gonna be like, that's not the fucking act we booked. We wanted a clown who's gonna get up here and be funny, and now you're telling stories about your drunk family. It's like that has to be in line. You have to be the comic they booked,
Yeah.
but you don't have to give them an exact act. And
Right.
if something happens in the audience, you can stop. You can comment on that. You can engage with whatever is happening in a real way.
And be more present.
Absolutely. The best laughs I ever got doing theater as an actor were when I was on stage and someone in the audience would sneeze, and I would look over to them in that like kind of red-nosy clown way and then go back into the scene, and everyone would laugh and be like, I just want to do that.
Yeah.
I just want to like fuck with the audience.
right.
And
You want to
and-
be with them, like
Yeah.
yeah.
And that's my favorite thing about theater is
It's the call and response.
they're right there.
Yeah.
And to me, it's like, that's what I mean is when I have a lot of respect for people like yourself or anyone who can do that many shows and do it the same way over and over. Because I get so, to me, I'm a caged animal.
I
I'm
know.
like, they're right there. I want to touch them. I want to talk to them. I want to break the fourth wall so bad. And the people who just live behind it doing like a musical, getting out there doing the same thing, I have
Yeah.
no idea.
I mean, like, the most shows I did is 350 shows of the same thing.
Holy shit.
It's a lot.
That's
lot.
so many.
Yeah.
What was that of? Was that?
I was 9 years old doing the Barney tour.
What?
Yeah.
How the fuck did we not talk about this the first time?
It's so crazy. I feel like it's just like something.
No,
No.
it's not something. It is something. Tell me
Yeah.
about the Barney tour.
yeah.
Now, you were 6?
I was 9.
You were 9.
9 and 10. So it was like that. It was 4th grade.
Yeah.
And I toured around.
Will you audition
US?
for that? You sent in
Yes.
a videotape?
So I dragged my dad to Dallas
Okay.
from Houston.
Oh, shit.
And of course, like, my parents aren't stage parents, which I'm very thankful for. However, it didn't mean my looks were not like, like I put myself together as a 9-year-old. And you see these like little girls. I went into the door and I still can envision the first girl had these perfect curled ponytails, and I was like, oh my god, she looks so beautiful. Like, oh my god, my hair's probably not even brushed right. Like, if you look at pictures, you can just tell. Like, my mom, she didn't care, like, didn't know how to braid hair, all that stuff, which is fine. And I have a lot of hair, so
That's
it was
so
like, it was
crazy
big.
seeing you now and knowing you for as long as I have. It's just like, you know what I will say? There was a day that you came in to acting class that blew me away so hard that I was like, oh my God. I literally thought Megan just looked like the way she does all the time effortlessly. And I immediately had so much respect for her. I was like, Megan puts Megan together every morning. Like, I never, no, and I know like so many girls do, but I really thought about it. And it's not to say this was a huge contrast. You still looked very pretty, but you came in and you did a scene from Proof.
Oh, I love that scene.
Great play, great scene. It was a good class. You did a great job in the scene. I can't remember who the fuck was in it. It was the one with the sister.
I'm sure.
And so it was you and one of the, some of the chick.
yeah.
But you came in dressed down in a way that this was 3rd year.
Oh, wow.
And I had not seen you dressed down like that. Like, sure, some days, you're really dressed up. Some days a little less, whatever. But you were like 0 makeup, sweats, 100% like, and it wasn't like I just rolled out of bed. It looked like you made that on purpose too. And it was like, I almost didn't recognize you.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I love when that happens.
It was so wild. I was like,
Yeah.
and I had immediately that appreciation because I don't know how I ever get mistaken for gay because I don't ever put that much effort or time into it, like at all. Honey, I don't. It's just not a
It's
little
the
bit, but
good hair.
well, and I think there was a thing too of like, school was so long and it was like we never got out, and
No.
the pressure that all you ladies were under to look a certain way and compete with each other and all the dynamics of that.
That's
that we
crazy.
can, you know,
It's
go
so
into
unrealistic.
forever.
You go out in the real world and you're like, oh.
Yeah. And that big jump that happens from third year to fourth year where you don't have to wear blacks anymore. So you
Yeah.
decide every day you're looking fucking fierce. And it's
Yeah.
like, come on,
No,
breathe.
ain't gonna last.
Yeah, just a little bit. It's going to be fine. Yeah, sidetrack. What the fuck were we talking about?
Oh, we're talking about my Barney tour thing.
Yeah, tell me about the Barney tour.
Well, anyway, so needless to say, the audition, it was really cutthroat. Like we would do a dance call. Like there was like okay,
I'm sorry. I
probably
didn't mean
like
to laugh
30
at
girls.
the Barney tour audition.
I know,
was
right?
really cutthroat.
it was cutthroat though because they would slash like 20 girls, then another 20, and like I'm just like,
Was it only
how
chicks
am
or
I
the little
making
boys
it?
too in
No,
the
because they were
thing?
just filling in one more girl because this was this tour had gone on 1 year prior, and so it had another year to go. So they
Got
were
it.
refilling a role, which I found out why.
You gonna tell me that?
Sure. We did a lot. You grow up real quick.
On the
I
Barney
was-
tour?
Yeah, in 4th grade. Like you're sneaking alcohol in the back of the bus.
What?
4th grade.
What?
Kids are doing
Party.
some not nice things in the back. Like I was like, you're how old? Why is
I
this?
was absolutely, and I don't know what it was, but I went to one particular public school for a little while where it's like, what's going on this bus? Like, for real.
Yeah.
Like, I went to other places. It was
I went
fine.
to
Everyone
public
was
schools
pretty
too,
fine
so-
and well behaved. But I went to one
It's
particular
different.
public school that it was like 2nd or 3rd grade. And I remember being like, why is everybody taking their pants
It's
off on this
all-
bus? What the fuck is
You're like,
going on?
It's 7:30 in the morning.
Yeah, you're like, I've never even seen one of those.
Yeah.
Show me one more time and then put your pants back on.
Yep.
It was
Yeah.
so weird.
It's so weird. But needless to say, so it got down to me and this other girl, and then we went home, and then we had to like make a decision because I think if one of us decided no, they would go with the other. And I
Sure.
said yes. I don't know if the other girl said yes too, but and my dad went on tour with me for 9 months, and we traveled over to 36 cities in the U.S. and Canada, and it was amazing. It was like,
How much school did you miss?
I mean, we had a tutor, so
Sure, but how much school did you miss? Like
I-
going to school, legit.
You know what? We were actually further along. You actually, because it's like, I guess it's like probably like homeschooling.
It is, yeah,
You
yeah,
get
yeah.
further along in the book because there's less interruptions in class. Like there's
Right.
no. So I was almost done with the book when I came back. When the kids were like, "Oh, we got 3/4 away," to finishing the book. Like we never actually finished
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah.
So it's just so strange. I mean, my school was awesome. I started at noon, went to 5, then we had dinner and we did the play. We did the show. We did the
Wow.
Barney's musical.
And what was
Castle.
your responsibility in the show? Like, what did you do? You
I
dance around a
played
little bit? What's up?
Penny, and I was one of the kids.
Oh, you had a character.
Yeah, there was
They couldn't
4
just call you
kids.
Megan?
No,
This is
no.
weird.
And they took it very seriously because I remember one of the choreographers, and she's like, "Megan, it's not the tree in the hole in the hole in the ground. It's the tree in the hole in the hole in the ground." I was making movements, by the way, and I was like, "Oh, okay, so sorry." It was really, it was a
That's
job.
wild.
It was a job.
I don't think I ever saw the Barney tour. I did see the first 2 like shows I went to when I was a kid, like performances where I went to Sesame Street Live for sure. And then I went to see the Power Rangers.
Oh, cool.
Did like a big laser light show thing.
Oh my God,
like
that
at the
must have been
stadium. It was
wild.
man, holy shit. It was so
Yeah.
cool. And I remember in the Sesame Street thing thinking like, how do those kids get that? Like, how do they get to be up there? And I remember thinking like, you must just be, it's so silly. I don't think I've ever thought about this out loud, but you must just be born into the right group of people to be like, all right, you get to be on TV. Like, I remember thinking like, how do these other kids, because no one's ever come to me as a kid and be like, would you like to be on Sesame Street? Like,
Yeah.
no one's ever asked me that. And I just had no idea the concept that like my parents weren't, trying to do that or whatever. But I was like, yeah, there's just all these kids that get to like be on TV and stuff. I guess I don't get to. Little did I know, if I just gone to my dad and mom and been like, I think I really want to do this, they
Yeah.
would have probably made it happen. But I just thought you weren't allowed to.
Oh wow.
You know what I mean? Like those were special kids who got to like I don't know. They were probably singing and dancing somewhere and got recognized and were like,
Oh, no.
"You need to be on the Barney tour." But it was like, no, that kid like tugged on their dad's pants and was like, "Hey, I want to go to this."
Crazy. I had so much chutzpah. Like, I just knew I had something like really big to offer. It's so weird as a kid. I mean, I kind of wish I sometimes still had that much like chutzpah when I go
Right.
into auditions, but yeah, I mean, of course in the audition I was still like, I still had nerves and that was normal, but still the fact that I was just like, yes, let's keep going at this.
It's a healthy amount of entitlement and privilege too, right? Because it's like, not in a bad way, but in like a you felt the right to be seen, the right to perform, the you know, a lot of kids
Yeah,
don't feel
that's
like
so
that.
crazy.
My dad used to say all the time, you know, my dad used to make me perform for his friends.
Really?
He would like, yeah, he would be
Did
like,
you like that?
I did.
Okay.
I really did.
I would hate
I
when
was
people are
I
like,
was
dance,
nervous.
monkey dance.
I was nervous depending on the crowd, but I would make my dad laugh, and then he would be
Aw.
like, "Go make them laugh," and I'd be like, "All right," and I would go do like movie lines and stuff like that. And yeah, it was fun. But oh no, I got sidetracked again. It's funny because when I was listening to our interview earlier today, I was like, man, I was a shitty interviewer in comparison. I've done so much more of it since then.
I mean, we've all grown.
Yeah. It's been a long time, but here I am losing my train of thought just as badly
Sorry.
as I used to. Because I used to develop this policy where I was like, I need to stop getting high before I do these interviews because it's hard for me to keep track of where I'm going. But then my love of getting high won out. And I was like, I'd
Yeah.
rather just do
It feels
that and deal with
nice.
it.
Yeah. I love it, you know.
All right, so I didn't feel, what was it? I didn't feel like I was allowed to be in things. But I think you had a healthy amount of entitlement and privilege, is what I was saying.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a good amount where you teach a kid, like, you're allowed to be seen and heard. Like, my dad, when he grew up, it was like, shut the fuck up. Don't say anything. You're a kid. Kids should never say anything or be heard or, you know. And so my dad really flipped it, and he was like, you always come to me if you want to know something and just ask, or like if you feel like you want to say something, say it. Like, and so I grew into that, and everywhere I go, I'm like, no, I have the right to talk. I have the right to be heard. And when people don't want to hear me, I'm like, hey, I've got a voice over here.
Yeah.
That's not everybody.
I know.
That's so many people are not like that. They don't feel like their voice is valid. Like, they don't feel like, and the times they have spoken up, people have been like, shut the fuck up. No one wants to hear it. All the way down to dangerous and bad things that they don't want to, you know, they feel nervous that they can even be honest about things that have happened to them or they've dealt with because they worry no one's going to listen. It's hard for me to wrap my brain around that because I'm the opposite. And it sounds like you're more like me, which is like, no, I just say what I think, and I feel like I have the right to. And if you don't like it, go fuck yourself. Like, you know, like, that's just the way it's going to be. Do you run into that? Do you run too far into that in your adult life?
No, I actually probably ran away from it for a while.
Yeah?
I feel like I'm running back towards it recently.
How so?
Yeah, I just... Because being... I also think all actors, even if you're not working or not, should call themselves actors. But, like, being... Because I hate the word aspiring actor, but, like, I guess working towards jobs, right? And you're auditioning... there's this sense of like, you have the job that I could get. Like, you have something I want. So you feel there's this little desperation towards when you start auditioning, because you're just like, I would love this job. You have no idea. I could really kill it. Like,
Right.
like, look at what I'm bringing. Look at all my talents. Like, please just like me.
Sure.
I'm doing like, this is the right thing, right?
Right.
You're trying to prove yourself so much, and it gets exhausting.
Yeah.
And, you know, eventually that whole thing of like being green, I was like, oh, I'm not going to be green. And it's like, you're still green. You can't get around being green. Like, I don't
Correct.
care. You just have to learn these things. Like,
Yeah.
no one can teach them.
Yeah.
I mean, I think our school should teach audition technique, because I don't think auditioning is acting whatsoever. I think it's a different skill. And now I've definitely just, I mean, I'm lucky to have worked, so I know I have been validated. I will say that. But I also know, like, deep, I'm getting to the point of, like, I know I have something to offer. And if you want it, you can have it. If you don't want it, I'll move on. And so I come in with, like, different energy.
It's invaluable, and it's so hard for people to figure out how to live their life that way.
Oh, it's so hard.
It's god damn. It's like to try to. I mean, that's the whole thing with stand up. Is like the stand ups you like the best are the ones that get on stage, and you're like, man, they don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
They don't care about what I think. They don't care if I like their jokes. They're just up there doing their thing,
They
and
don't
they're
care
all
what their
usually
agents think, all that.
exactly, and they're usually pretty desperate for your attention. But their act is one of, I don't care. And I don't know how to teach that. I don't even know how to start to try to build the foundation of someone who's ready to start thinking about
No, I think
life
it's something
like
you have to
that.
learn.
Yeah, but how?
I mean, or else, like, you can, but the thing is, I still have people who are about my age or even older still having that desperate, you know, and I try to rein them back. You know, I've been trying to, you know, I'll do what I can, but you can't, I don't know.
What do you think is I want to ask you this because I feel like you have taken some really big leaps in your life and tried things that maybe you didn't know were going to work out, but you really like, no, I fucking deserve this. I'm going to try it. And you went and you fucking did it. And almost all of them worked out pretty fucking good.
Yeah, I've really lucked out.
So what do you think is one of your biggest failures? What was one of the things that you think that you went out and you tried to do something, you're like, well, that didn't fucking work? Just because, and I only asked that, and I'll say one last thing while you think about it. I talked to my friend Joe Flanders the other day, who has it wasn't until probably his mid to late 20s when he started doing some different projects when he finally really ran up into someone saying, yeah, this isn't great, or we don't love this, or this is not, this isn't going to work, or you failed and you need to try again. Because literally from the moment he was a little kid, he would try stuff and it would work. And it was great.
Oh, wow.
He would try to make a thing when he was a kid and make a little movie, and he'd make it and everyone would like it. He'd try to make jokes and he was usually pretty fucking funny. Got into a great school, made his own movie doing this. And it was like, yeah, a few hiccups, but goddamn, every time I try to do something, it fucking works, and I'm funny, and I'm good and talented. Then later he hit a few snags that was like, okay, this is humbling. Okay, I'm not perfect. Not everything I do is always going to be great. I need to keep blah, blah, blah. Have you had some of those humbling moments?
I mean, I think things more humbling are not getting the job, really.
Sure.
Rather than, and then realizing why I didn't, like, whether it was political or usually it's has nothing to do with me.
Has there ever been one that was your fault?
Realize.
You ever not get a job because you fucked up?
No.
Really?
Yeah. And I'm not saying I'm perfect, but the thing is, acting isn't perfect, so it's just I have way more shit to fuck up. But no, I mean, I just also think everything's a learning experience. Sure. I did this one independent film, which will never see the light of day. Although it was just bought by a very big production company, probably 6 months ago, maybe.
Be kept in a very nice vault.
Yeah, I don't think they watched the whole film when they bought it. I think they might have watched a really nice trailer and then probably were like, oh, we can't do anything with this. Because I watched parts of it and I was like, this is worse than a student film. And there are some good actors in it. And I'm like, nah, this won't see the light of day. I'm not worried about it. And the thing is, we weren't given any time to act on that. So all my acting, I had to be very generous for. We got maybe one take if we were lucky. We didn't even finish getting a quarter of my character's stuff. So my story didn't make sense.
Right.
And it was just but it was a learning experience. I learned quite a bit from that. I had that gross producer who worked on it and I had to stand my ground as a female. And that's nice.
One thing that's changed pretty dramatically since you and I talked last.
Yeah.
Because the Me Too movement was not a thing when you were first entering the business.
But the Me Too movement hadn't happened yet before when I did that film. It was a year after.
Oh, word up.
Yeah. But I'm surprised his name hasn't come out, but whatever.
It will.
It might.
It will. They all will. I mean, dead or alive, one day we'll know everything about everybody.
Anything, but it was just there were comments made about like
But that's what I mean.
that I was like, not necessarily, you know, like
Even the lightest of scumbags are
Yeah.
all going to get found out. They all are,
Exactly.
which is why I'm so fucking happy. I'm so
happy.
It's a thing because man, I'm not perfect, and I've done plenty of stupid things, and I've said a lot of stupid things in my life, and I've wronged women. I feel confident in saying that, but none of those things do I think I have any fear of those being issues of consent or objectification, especially in a professional setting. I've
Yeah.
been nervous about that since I was a person. Like, I just want to make sure everybody's cool. We're all comfortable and happy that we're here, and no one feels any. Like, I've just never worried about that. So, and I go all the time to like open mics and comedy shows where guys are like, "Yeah, it's like really tough to be a guy these days," and it's like, no,
Is it though?
it isn't. It isn't. It never has
No.
been. You know, it's tough to be a lady.
Yeah.
And it's
Always
it's
has been.
slightly less tough now than it was not long ago, but it is absolutely not something that I fear. It's more something that I can't wait to. I just can't wait to see the people go down that I
Yeah.
know will.
I just think I think the art form of what we do is so beautiful, and it really saddens me when I work with just not good people in general,
Right.
and I like when the good guys win.
Yeah,
I really do.
yeah,
Because it's a privilege to get to do what we do.
yeah.
And so many people take it for granted, and I'm like, that's something. Even on that film set, I didn't take it for granted. I was
Right.
like, you know what? I get to be around artists at least.
Right.
And like we would spend hours in this little trailer together, like, you know, some people on like guitars and just like talking and, you know, creating.
I feel like we're just trying to perpetuate the life we had at school in a lot of ways. Like, you know what I mean? The ability to constantly create in a safe environment. I don't mean safe space environment. I
No,
mean
but-
like a place where you feel safe to
Yeah.
make and take risks and all that.
Absolutely.
Like, we're trying to find that. We want to surround ourselves with other people who are super smart and super talented and super beautiful, and they all want to make stuff too.
Yeah.
And it's like, you get out of school and you realize that's why we had to pay for it.
Yeah.
That's why it costs money,
it
because
doesn't
to
exist a lot.
to get all those things together in the right place, you have to make
Mm-hmm.
a financial effort. You have to pay people to be in the right place
Mm-hmm.
to do that. Otherwise, your best bet is to move to like LA or New York and try to put together your own ragtag team of people to make shit.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's nice. It's nice when you get pulled into things that already exist. You don't correct me if I'm wrong, but I
Mm.
feel like you've been doing more working on other people's stuff than making your own stuff since you got out.
I definitely don't do my own stuff.
How do you feel about that?
You know,
They
I'm
talked a
starting
lot
to get
about that.
tired of just. I mean, I like the recent project I worked on. I think that was one of the most creatively fulfilling because they let me do whatever I
What was that?
wanted. Queen America.
Oh yeah, yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
let's talk about that, because that's like your biggest recent thing, right?
Yeah.
Um,
it is.
Also, explain to me, where is it? that's
Where is
the
it
problem.
going?
No, where does it live? Because
Facebook Watch.
right.
That's it.
Let's talk about that, because that's weird, and no one knows where that is. And when I was
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
first starting this podcast, and people were like, "What the fuck is a podcast?" and I was trying to explain
Now
to them
everyone
how to exactly.
Knows what podcasts
Well,
are.
and that's why
That's
it won't be
crazy, yeah.
long. I'm not saying Facebook Watch is going to be something that everybody has their eyes on in a
No.
couple years,
Let's see.
but you can take your shoes off if you like.
Yeah, I think I'm going to.
You're welcome
I'm like,
to. I actually normally wear a shoes off at the door thing, but we were doing the
Oh,
tour, and
thanks.
I don't worry about you being dirty. I should maybe, but I don't.
Maybe.
Um,
Do you have a dog?
so no worries. I don't think the rabbit can smell anything anymore, so it won't be a problem. So, how did this whole Miss Texas thing happen?
So I got it was like after pilot season, and I got the audition, and I think I tested for a pilot, and then I didn't end up getting it. I was really upset because I was the right age for the role, but the other girl was younger than me and got I can't play my own age. So needless to say, like I just play everything like way younger than me, which I should be very grateful for. But at the same time, some days I just don't want to play
I'm absolutely with
a
you.
naive character. However, Queen America, very, very different. You know, if we are to get a season 2, then my character's gonna get to go to some even cooler places than I got to go on season 1. And anyway, so I go in for actually Miss Oklahoma, the lead, and I was like, this is not really my role. Like, I'll do it, but but I loved the script. I was like, this writing is good, and that doesn't happen in LA. Like,
Is it
there's
funny?
just bad writing. Yeah, it's funny, and it's a dark comedy.
What's the style like if you were liking it to another show?
I used to have a comparison for it. I thought it was very. It didn't turn out that way. It's interesting how things change.
But when you read the script.
When I read the script, I was like, oh, this is like I, Tonya.
Okay.
It's just like wild, absurd,
Yeah,
dark, funny. And then like this is how the writer likes to describe how she writes. She likes to like make people laugh, make people laugh, and then punch them in the gut.
I love that.
And I'm like, I loved it. It was
Sounds
so
like
new.
my favorite girls I've dated.
Oh gosh.
Just a bunch of little chuckles and then
it's like,
that one kind of
you're
hurts,
like,
but
oh.
okay, yeah. Let me heal while you go back to
Wow.
laughter.
No, she's amazing, and she's really young, and I got to work with the creative team who does like Big Little Lies, so they're really hot right now, and they're like all females, and only one male producer, and that's pretty insane in this world.
It
and
is.
we had a female director, and they even tried to get a female DP, but there were none available.
It's tough.
It's because one, there's just not many, and whoever are working, like I could literally probably just be like, I'm a female DP, and they'd be like, great, come work on, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
It's like it's like a running joke.
So if you're listening and you're interested, ladies,
Yes.
get involved in the
DP world, 'cause
absolutely cinematography. It's well, and I'll say this as someone who my number one concern leaving school was I wanted to do TV, but I didn't know anything about being on set at all. And I had all this theater
nothing.
training, but I didn't know how to do anything with that. And now I shoot for a living. Like I shoot TV, like actually hold the camera myself.
Wow.
And yeah, in
Do you
this short
feel
time.
super confident now?
No. No.
That's still me too.
No, I'm still nobody, because that's the thing is we have DPs that work on the show, and we joke about how like I get the little toy camera, you know what I mean, and they get the cameras, right?
Yeah, but those
and they're
things
like
look
you could
heavy.
they're like you could put your little toy away, you know. They show up and that's like we're and believe me, they're getting paid the money for it. That's a big difference too.
Yeah.
Being a shooter producer versus actually being a union camera operator is great money.
Wow.
So another reason to get into that. But yeah, to me it was about the skill set thing, and I wanted to learn how to do more things. But I love seeing more people picking up those skills, because in our world of making your own shit, if you can at least know part of it, like even if you just decided you want to do a web series or something and you knew how sound worked,
Yeah.
that would save you just a little bit of trouble here and there in those moments when you're like, oh, we can't get the sound working. Well, at least, it's crazy enough that she's one of the actors in the project, but Megan knows how sound works, so let her
Yeah.
come over and help it out. I think any way you can ever get your brain wrapped around some of that stuff is always a good
Like
a good approach.
if we get a season 2, I started to get more comfortable with the producers, and I
Yeah.
want to learn what they do, because I do want to create stuff from the ground up. I want to be on the creative team from the very beginning. I don't want to just be, and not saying I want to star in all of them, like, and I'd like to direct, so I want to learn all that. But as far as like making my own stuff, because I'm still learning it itself.
And you probably don't have a story that you absolutely must tell right now, because if you did, you would be doing that.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Oh,
I don't mean that in a bad way.
No, but I also don't. Yeah, I guess I don't have that story, but I also
It'll
have never been drawn to writing.
Right.
Period.
Do you have like even if you didn't want to write the script or put it together, but do you have ideas ever for like shows and stuff like that you're like, I think it'd be cool if there was a TV show about this? Do you ever think about stuff like that?
No.
Or you're more interested in like, I hope they come up with a TV show that's perfect for me that I can be in and star in?
No, I love different. Yeah, I mean that's why I hate when people are like, oh, what are you drawn to? Drama, comedy, what is it? And I'm just like, I want to do all of it. I want to do
Right.
the action. I want to do the horror. I want to do every bit of it, and I want to explore all of that.
It's funny because I feel like when we talk about making choices in school, right, as an actor, and we're saying bring something in, as a director, we're like, bring something in we can work with, make a choice. At least we could be like, no, don't do something
Yeah.
totally different, or that kind of works, let's try this, but make a strong choice, right? And we put that on you to like, that's your responsibility. Don't
Yeah.
come in with nothing, because then we have to generate what it is,
Yeah.
and that's probably not going to be organic or
It's
authentic
easier
for you.
to steer someone.
Exactly. But in a strange way, they're doing the same thing to you when they ask you that question. They're saying, like, what are you drawn to? Comedy, drama, what? It's like,
Right.
I don't want to give an answer. I'm trying to, no, you tell me what we're doing today.
Yeah.
You tell me what the script is. You tell
Yeah.
me what the character does and says, and then I'll make it work. And it's funny that expectation goes both ways. Like, people need to understand that you, that's part of your job, is bringing that into the room.
Mm-hmm. Oh, for sure. Like you can't. It's so funny when you go into audition rooms, people come in and they're like, so do you have any questions before we get started? I find that so funny. I'm like, unless it's like a pronunciation of a name, I come in with all the answers. Even if it's a question that I went back and forth on, at least I made one decision about it. I'm like, maybe the girl, sometimes we don't get scripts. We don't get a lot of information about it. Yeah. And so we just have to make a lot of choices, but I make all the choices and then I go, but of course, I was like, no questions. But of course, if you want to tell me anything like that I should know, they usually tell me like a pitfall that most actors are doing, which is pretty helpful before I get started. Yeah. Usually I kind of knew the pitfall. Right. But I come in with, but then I go also afterwards, if we want to work or something, like I'm happy to do that as well. Because I want to let people know that I am flexible, but here's what my take on the scene is first. Here's my art. So
and style is so much of it, right? Like when you're going in for a show, even if you don't know everything about see, that's the thing that I think is a mistake. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but like I do a lot of coachings out here, and with my friends and stuff like that.
I've been helping friends lately. It's fun.
Yeah, and it's it's my favorite part of directing is
I bet
like
you're
trying to
really good at
figure
it.
Thank you.
Directing's a hard communication because you like have this thing in your head of like where you want it to go.
Right.
And then you have to like get them there without telling them exactly how to do.
That's true, but with the sides even more so, I just have to find an angle on it. That's the fun thing about working with like sides on an audition is I'm like, we don't know anything. All we know is like Sandy walks into the room. Sandy's a tall blonde, and you've seen the fucking breakdowns that women get in this business, and so many of them are garbage. Like, even if everyone working on the project is great, for whatever reason, the breakdown you got is like, tall woman likes men, and you're like, great, this is a lot to work with. But you have to come up with something that's more than what they've given you, so that they have something to choose from. And trying to like, one of my favorite people to work with, Jasmine Stiefel, and I work all the time.
Oh, I just worked on a short with her. She's amazing.
And I love working with her on auditions because it's like a puzzle. We treat it like, we're like, so why is this person saying this to that? Because you never have enough information.
Oh, no.
You never know what they're even talking about. You just have this weird scene where you're like, we're at a bachelorette party, and you're like, and you know why you don't know anything? It's usually bad. Yeah. Because the scene
because they don't know
is usually bad.
It's awful. It's awful.
So you have to make it up.
Oh yeah.
And to me, that's the most fun thing, is trying to figure out how to make something a fun little moment out of these like garbage 2 pieces of paper of like, oh my God, when are you gonna get married? We're all married. When are you gonna get married? And it's like, I'm fine with how my life's going. And you're like, okay, great. It's like another Lifetime special, which it's like, it's fine. It's fine. we're not here at this point in our lives to get choosy about material, which I think is another thing. You know, it's like, even as a comic, like I don't, not about to turn my nose up at gigs. And I think that's the thing, that you come out of school being very like, well, I want to make sure the things I'm doing are good, and I don't really connect with this text. And it's like, I don't know if you connect with this Colgate commercial, but they'll give you 20 grand if you do it.
It's so funny when actors at our age start, unless it's about nudity and you feel like uncomfortable with like that, I understand. But
well, any
like
content
getting like
you
choosy
object
of like,
to.
no, like this is below me. I'm just like, really? Nothing's below me. Like, still nothing's below me. I'm like, give me anything.
What was the last
work.
What was the last thing that you like did have to pass on, or did want to be like, I can't, like someone sent you something or an aside or something, you're like,
I actually recently last week got like a producer appointment. I got really excited, and then I read the script and I was like, cuz so I used to just go in even if I didn't want the role. Because I was like, it's in front of a great casting director usually, or could be a great casting director usually.
Right.
I think, you know, you don't know who the next big casting person is going to be, but, or, you know, so because then I sometimes booked the role and then I'd have to say no. And then I was like, okay, I need to just like not go in, because that's not, I shouldn't do that. So the last thing, it was just, I mean, could be really interesting, but the thing with independence, and I've, you know, had bad experience with a couple of them, and if you don't know the writer-director duo, and it has, like, nudity in it, and, like, for reasons I don't understand, like, lots of grotesque stuff, and just, like, then I pass.
have you done nudity yet?
I haven't, but I've auditioned for quite a bit of it that I was like, I would definitely do it.
So you found pieces you were comfortable with, but then you just didn't get them.
I just didn't get them.
Got it.
Yeah. There was one that a bunch of UNCSA girls auditioned for, and this is a crazy story. We had to be in bikinis for it.
Wow.
Yeah. Luckily, the casting director was a female, so you would feel comfortable. But like Maddie Jo Landers, Mia Vallet, we all got callbacks too.
Wow.
We were all in like the callback room. Maddie Jo, she's very like confident, and she was like wearing her bikini while just like waiting. Whereas like me and Mia are just like, no.
In coats or something?
Yeah. Like in full dress. And like we would then go in, and then like, because it's a striptease scene.
Got it.
And so you then, yeah, it's, and it's like, it was for the Nick, which is a really good, it was back in like,
sounds familiar.
What was it on? I don't remember, but it's that like old time show where he's a doctor. Anyways, it was for a very cool project. They went in a completely different direction, a completely different look than any of us white ladies. So no harm taken, but it was just so crazy to be in that spot of, so I would have done it. I don't think my mom would like it. And actually, I think my parents or my mom's pretty fortunate that I haven't.
Are you waiting for that moment where you're like,
I have to be like, you guys,
it's on
you
its way
can't
out.
watch this one.
Right.
You know, this one you can't watch.
And knowing the luck, right? It'll be the biggest thing that you've gotten so far.
Yeah,
Some like
exactly.
Scorsese movie or
Huge
something.
thing. And I'll be like, and you're not seeing
Of
this
course.
big one. They'd be like, what? I'll be like, I did the thing you didn't want me to do. I just think one of my favorite films, it's so cliche, is Titanic, and that moment in where he's drawing her. I'm just like, that is telling the story. And so I've had like arguments with my agent and he's like, some days you're okay with nudity and some days you're not. I'm like, it has to, as long as it propels the story and it tells a beautiful, like
the rule is
being
consistent.
naked is vulnerable.
Right.
And so like I've had to be in a bra and underwear but that's, to me, that's like a bathing suit. So what does that matter to me? I'm not. So it was my somewhat beginning of a sex scene, but it wasn't a sex scene.
I don't know if this is because I am a man. I don't know if this is because of, I don't know what it is. I could give a shit. I am absolutely 100% not embarrassed by my nudity in any way. Like I would
There are
put
quite
it
a
out
few
in
guys
any
like
way. I don't know what it is, because I think it's I haven't always been that way. And I actually, when I was a kid, one of my biggest fears, it still is a huge anxiety of mine, is being walked in on in the bathroom. Like the idea that
Why?
I wouldn't lock the door and someone would walk in while I
Oh.
was like sitting down on the toilet. I have so much anxiety about it. It makes me
Wow.
so uncomfortable. But at the same time, I can stand like fully nude in front of a room full of people, and like I don't, because here's what it is. I already feel like people can see the worst parts of me anyway. I never feel like I'm fooling anyone. Like if there's a part of my body I don't love, I never think like, oh, I'll wear this shirt or I'll wear these pants and no one will know. Maybe I try, but I'm not an idiot. I know it's like you can't cover up what you look like. You look the way you look.
Yeah.
And so I almost want everyone to see me naked, just so I can be like, I know. Now I know everyone knows.
Now
There's
everyone-
no,
yeah.
there's no bullshit. I mean, I want to
Interesting.
spend some time at the gym first, but I certainly, I don't know. There's an element of, I feel like I was raised in a conservative Christian atmosphere, and I've always been pushing further and further towards like, I don't want to feel any shame. I don't want to feel any guilt. I don't want to feel like there's anything wrong with me. And yeah, I think that's just something that holds so many people back. And this is not about anybody else, but for me personally, I think that's one area where it's almost the same thing as I've been putting my brain around this concept recently, in that I think privacy is dying. I think that in a way, I mean, in a lot of ways it is like blaringly, obviously it's going away. But I mean, like, even in ways that people are going to fight hard to keep, I think they're going to have to give up eventually. Like the idea that you'll be able to have like documents on your computer that no one else is allowed to see, I think that'll go away.
Oh yeah.
I think the idea that like, I think one day the only thing you're going to have privacy wise are your thoughts. That's going to be the thing that no one knows for real what's going on. But like anything you've ever said, anything you've ever typed, anything you've ever owned, it's just going to eventually somehow, all those barriers are going to get broken down. It's all going to be out there.
My mom could already do that when I was in high school. She like warned me once, and she was like, anything you've ever Googled, even if you deleted it, she's an IT person. She's like,
Right.
I could find it.
I remember you telling me about that. Especially the way you talk about it. She works at like server farms. There's wires. I don't.
Oh yeah, you remember? Yeah. That's
Well, I don't
exactly
remember.
it.
I listened to it this morning.
Oh yeah.
No. I do remember that. My memory's that good. We'll go back to that. But yeah. So I guess my whole attitude on it is like, it's part of why I don't edit myself on these podcasts and stuff too. For the most part, I try not to. One of my talk shows was live and about politics, and it was because I'm like, I want people to be held more accountable to what the fuck they say and think all the time. Like putting all these multiple layers of filters up and stuff, and being concerned about making sure that I don't, and it's like, nah, let's all stand naked and say what we mean and say what we feel and just own it. Yeah. And it is what it is. And it's like, if people like you, they like you. If they don't, they don't.
No one wants to own their own shit, though.
Right. I know.
Not these day and age, no. Everyone's hiding behind screens. I get bullied, and I'm like, it's okay.
What do you mean you get bullied?
You can get bullied on, just like what people write about you. I've had not nice things, and those are the things I remember. I have 100 nice things, and then like one mean thing.
What are the mean things people say about you, Megan?
One was, this girl cannot act. And I was like,
about what?
Just like, it was a How to Get Away with Murder comment. And I was like,
what?
I was heartbroken. I was like, but then I search him, and like, he's this old man in North Carolina. Like, he probably has a boring life.
Right.
Like, let him say what he wants to say. But they all everyone hides behind phones, and even in general, like in life, I think people hide behind phones and like, because you can compose things now. Same with like Instagram photos and all that stuff. It's like why I've been resistant towards social media and Instagram because, I mean, one, I've lost out roles to it, and two,
Wait, what does that mean?
meaning like the other girl had 500,000 followers and I have like I
Oh.
had like 2,000 at the
Right,
time.
right,
and
right.
I just don't care to. I care to work on my craft and not on my following.
Or
And
just put your butt out there a little bit more, and you'll have thousands and
Right.
thousands of views. Get
or I'll
that K,
just pay
girl.
yeah,
Just pay for that K.
I just pay for the K. Really, that's
and before you
really
know,
all
the
that
K
matters.
is an
I
M,
mean, so
girl.
many-
That's life.
So many people pay for them, and I'm just like, oh,
Well, and here's another thing.
there's lies.
But here's another thing too. You cannot pay for them. You can get them organically, and they can still not be people who give a fuck about you or pay any
That's
attention to
true.
what you're doing. And I don't mean in like a shallow way of like they don't really care about me. No, I mean like they literally follow you and they mute you immediately or whatever,
Yeah,
or
that's
they're not
true.
a real account. And I'll tell you why. I doubled my following, which is to say nothing about it. But I doubled it by working on Dancing with the Stars and occasionally getting tagged by one of the celebrities in some story
Wow.
or something. And then boom, I'd have 200 more followers.
Wow.
Yeah. But they don't fucking care about my
No.
stupid At the Elevens podcast. They don't care about my weed smoking talk show. They don't care about my comedy. They're just waiting for me to go back to the show in hopes that they get one little glimpse, a piece of information that they wouldn't have got just from watching the show because they're super fans. So that's why they follow my fucking account. Or maybe they were a fan of one of the celebrities and they kind of like me, and maybe I get an extra little fan out of it myself.
Yeah.
Maybe. But that is minuscule. And I know that because even though my follower count went out, the amount of people who like my photos didn't really. It's like the engagement is not
Oh,
even
yeah.
there. So even if they are liking it, it doesn't mean they're going to show up to your show. It doesn't mean they're going to watch your fucking premiere. It doesn't mean that, you know?
Yeah.
And that's the sad thing, is that all it means is the idea of more eyeballs on something. And that's why people want to give those parts and those opportunities to those people, because they're
Yeah.
hoping that they'll get
It's
those eyeballs.
free
but
advertisement. I get it.
but
As
it,
a
but it isn't
business
even a
decision-
guarantee of that.
No, it's not.
You know what I mean? And it's like, especially if she's acting in something, you know what I mean? They may follow her because of her butt.
Yeah.
That's like one of the main reasons why people get followed. I'd have the K by now if I had a nicer butt, for sure, no doubt about it.
I know.
Because I would have no problem putting it out there, as I just explained. But that's not my point. My whole point is like, even if you get, and this, so I got a buddy of mine who's a comedian, but he's also an Instagram and YouTube like star. Like, he's got a great following.
Yeah.
He puts out content all the time, all these funny videos. And we were talking like 2 years ago when I first got into stand-up out here, and he was like, man, if you really want to pop on Instagram, you got to be putting out content, blah, blah, blah. And he basically was telling me,
crazy.
like, look, here's the roadmap, dude. I'm not like a genius. I just figured out you got to do this, that,
Nobody
and the
really
other.
knows how to do it.
But he told me the roadmap, and I made a conscious decision of like, oh, yeah, I don't want to do that. You know
Nah.
why? Because one day there's going to be someone who I really do give a shit what they think, and they're going to be like, oh, he's that Instagram guy, and I'm going to want to shoot myself in the head. Because that's
I definitely don't want to be that person.
no hate. I don't mean any
No.
hate, but it's like, for me, I borrowed a lot of money from the government for a classical theater education. To be known as the Instagram guy, I'm at least going to be known as the guy who's funny, or the guy who did plays
Yeah.
or TV or something that I consider legit, you know?
Yeah.
And that's my own bias.
Oh,
But
I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
I don't have time. I mean, that I've now put a different perspective over it of just like, this is my space, whereas like at first it felt like I
don't
had
use
to
MySpace,
give.
honey. That's like,
Oh, yeah.
that's years ago.
Yeah. I was meaning this is my domain. I don't know.
Sure. You should have a
whereas-
domain, probably meganwest.com.
It's already taken.
All right.
I think she's like some like country singer. But what were we talking about? Oh, anyway,
Social media.
yeah. So it's my space, not the social media platform.
Sure.
Where I can do what I want with it versus
Right.
it felt like something I had to do it a certain way, just like the roadmap, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't like the roadmap.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm going to do my own way of like, if I want to post, I'll share something, but it's going to be something that gives something to hopefully to somebody.
Right.
I hope in some of my posts. And I hope to do more of that. Like, but I'm still also a very private person in life.
Same.
And I also think
some of my younger friends are like, all you do is advertise your shows on Instagram. I'm like, what else do you want from me?
Yeah.
And they're like, we just need to be more personable. I'm like,
I
get
don't
out of my
wanna-
life.
Yeah. Like, I just want to live.
Out of here.
I just want to live. And what's sad now is like, I think I'm like, I'll be enjoying a moment. I'm like, that would be cool on Instagram, but I don't care enough to pull out my phone
Right,
and
right.
Instagram it.
I have a lot of like,
I want it for
probably should have put that on
myself.
my story. I think about that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, now I hate myself for thinking that.
I know. So I'm just like, also I'm like, my life is kind of boring sometimes. So it's like, who really cares?
But that's all subjective, and that's one of the things that I think
Yeah.
is important is if you are trying to build that on, because here's the thing, I didn't want to build a following so that I could get stand-up jobs. I didn't want to build a following so that I could get directing jobs. But now I want to build a following because I want a following. I want a group of
I get
people
that.
who want to see my comedy. And if and when
I
I finally come
feel
to
that.
Phoenix, they're going to be like, "Oh, fuck, he's here. I can
Yeah.
go see it." I actually am trying to build an audience
Right.
online, which is something I never really was trying to do, and I recently decided I'm going to try to do it my way.
Right.
And I think that's what's really important, because I didn't want to be known as the goofy Instagram guy, but the guy who has like in-depth conversations on podcasts with people. Like I'm fine with being known as a podcaster. The idea of being known as an Instagram comedian doesn't entertain me at all.
Right.
Not to say that one's better than the other, but it's just like, what do you want to be?
Right.
You know?
You want a following for what you do, not just who you are.
Both.
I mean,
Both, but I want, I don't want to do, okay, I was reading a book recently that defined what it means to be a hack in the world of like artistry and comedy. And specifically in stand-up, they defined a hack as someone who writes jokes they think someone else will like,
oh,
as opposed to write jokes you like, that you
Oh.
think are funny.
interesting.
Don't sit and write a joke that you're like, oh, I bet an audience would love it if I did a little misdirect here.
Right.
It's like, no. What occurs to you as funny, make that a joke.
Yeah,
And I think that's true across the board, which is like,
absolutely.
just
Even
do
with
the things
acting,
you like. Don't do anything you think someone else is going to enjoy.
absolutely. And that's another thing in auditions I think actors need to learn is that don't do just what's on the page. Like yes, you can read something and be like, oh, I know exactly what they want.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, that got me my last job on 911. I literally was like, I'm going to do whatever I want with this. I don't care. And I was like, not thinking I was going to get the job at all. At all. I was like, did not look like these like other news reporter girls. I was like, no, I'm going to do what I want. And I got the job. It was that easy. I was like, oh, snap. And like one of my other friends, she's like, yeah, I've been doing that forever. I was like, well, okay. I just got there.
So I'm going to give you an opportunity to sum up what you think you've learned about yourself in the last 5 years. Doesn't have to be finite, because I'm going to ask you again in 5 more years.
Okay, cool. I learned, take care of your soul.
How do you do that? That sounds
so
almost
hard.
impossible.
No, it's definitely not impossible.
I said almost. I mean that on purpose. Like,
it's hard. It's hard in this industry, but I think whatever that means to you. Like,
what does it mean to you?
For me, it's eating right and exercising and doing something creative each day. Just paying attention to nature, like being really present, actually. And I think, unfortunately, social media doesn't allow us to do that. And slowing down a little bit, because this world is being so fast paced. I actually heard this the other day. This is a really crazy thing, that apparently what most humans now absorb in a day, back then, like information wise, like with social media, back in like the prairie and I don't even know when, didn't absorb that in their whole lifetime. Or maybe it was a year, but like, it was like, it's a crazy number. That we take in so much information, which sometimes it's great. We are rapidly growing as a species, and I think that's cool. But
It scares the shit out of me, honestly.
Yeah.
There's too many things, because
I
here's
think that
the
there's
thing.
mental problems everywhere now. and I think that's part of it.
Dramatically. And there's a bunch of those things. I think one of the main things that we've figured out is number one thing is we've made everything into machines, and so now we don't have enough purpose. I mean, I grew up, raised by farmers, and still in the 2000s, like people who were ranching and the idea, I was raised by people who fix things when they're broken. They don't throw it out.
Huh.
And I still have a lot of that sentiment. And when I talk to people, I sound like a crazy old man when I'm like, why is everything disposable? And why is everybody trying to find ways not to do any work? I was raised that, like, there's joy in work, and like you do things because not just because they need to be done, but because doing them gives you a reason to be alive. Like my family saw it through the prism of religion, and I didn't, but it was through, you work for the Lord. Like, we're all working to live in service of this man who died for us. Like, he died for our sins so that we can go to heaven despite the fact that we're sinful people. And the way to give back to that is to live in community and to take care of each other and to build things together and to, that work. Like, what's the purpose of life? That's the fucking purpose of life.
Yeah.
You get up every day and you work hard to earn the life that you get to live. I don't see it through that lens anymore, but I still see that idea of, like, you owe it to being alive to participate.
Oh.
I say this as someone who struggles with depression, and I struggle to get out of bed, just like lots of other people.
Right.
But, God, it's like, learn how to build furniture. Learn how to, something. Like, find a way to contribute other than just...
I hate the feeling, like, that's a hard part about being an actor. Is sometimes you feel like you're just waiting to, and I'm like, I have so much to give. I want to give my skills away. Like, how can I do that? And so I'm trying to figure out those ways of how to give my skills. Right now it's just like coaching my friends, and then hopefully I can do more of that, or hopefully I just end up working more. I mean, whatever. Like, I just am trying to be present to what,
Is there anything you like to do working with your hands? It's not a test. I mean, you don't have to say no.
I like to cook a lot.
Yeah, you do like to cook. I feel like I know that about you.
I love to cook.
For sure.
I like the science behind it.
Yeah.
I'm weird like that, but...
But that's a great... It's like...
If I had a garden, I would garden.
Spending the time... Well, and I think I showed you mine if you want. I mean, you don't have to just grow that in there. You can grow that in there, but you can also grow other... Yeah,
really?
of course.
Oh.
I mean, you could put any pots in there and grow them the same way. Put some basil in there if you need.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's great, and it's like we work super hard so that we can have microwave food that's done in 35 seconds, which can be a saving grace.
Right.
But like the idea of spending time cooking your food, what the fuck happened to that?
Yeah.
Why are we working so hard to get rid of that? It's like, stop trying to get rid of the tasks in your life.
Yeah.
I don't love cleaning, but I love how it feels when it's clean.
Me too.
Oh, I get so happy. Like, I spent the day cleaning today, and I, like, walk into a room that smells like lemon.
And you're
and
just like, oh, yes.
Yeah,
and then you go to bed, and you're like, everything's where it's supposed to be.
Exactly right. And that doesn't satisfy everybody the way it satisfies us. But, like, finding those things and then, like, I mean physical labor. Like, doing things that are actual physical tasks. Mm-hmm. That's how you zen out. That's how you find new thoughts. That's how you meditate. I mean, I meditate when I'm gardening. I meditate when I'm scrubbing the floors.
When I cook, for sure.
Because my brain goes somewhere else, which is the definition of that,
That's the same with, like, exercise and, like, taking dance classes. I get out of my head and into my body. Because I think as a society, because we're attached to connection and all that stuff. I mean, and I think connection is also a big thing, but we need more physical connection that we've lost. That, and I think everyone should have some sort of spirituality, but that's me personally. I think you need I don't care what it is, but some sort of thing that's like outside you. Something like you just believe in living for. Really.
Yeah. Which, to me, I think the thing that I found that replaced God or whatever I was calling it before was just humanity, like faith in community, and like,
Yeah.
you know, I was praying for things that I wasn't getting responses on. I was like, oh, I can go talk to people
Yeah.
and they can give me those answers.
Absolutely.
And you know, grain of salt, depending on who you get it from, but
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's, I agree with that. That's something that for a long time I felt elusive, because my initial reaction, if you'd said that to me like 10 years ago, like, I think everyone needs spirituality, I'm like, I don't know about that. But when you put it that way, I agree, because it is, if you define spirituality as something outside yourself that gives you a reason to participate in the world,
Yes.
then yes,
Yes.
absolutely.
It's something to get you up. Then why are we living this life if, like,
Right.
there's not something to live for, right?
Yeah, I don't believe in
Other than your
having, like,
accomplishments.
No,
and...
totally. I guess my point is, like, as opposed to leaning on, like, the willful suspension of scientific thought, and having a very specific idea about a thing that you're working towards, like heaven. Like, to me, it's like, I don't have a problem with someone working towards heaven if it's keeping you from being an asshole.
Sure.
But at the same time, I kind of feel bad that you're working your ass off towards something you may not get, like, which is your own
Right.
journey. But for me, it's like, I need to get up every day towards something I know that I can see and feel and touch and believe in, which there's plenty of stuff like that on Earth, you know, for me,
Yeah.
that, like, you know, other people,
Yeah.
like, that's the reason.
Well, I just also think, like, spirituality is like magic, and I think there is a lot of magic in this world that we just don't see. I'm just like, oh, that's crazy that would happen at one time. I don't
If
know.
we hadn't already done like 90 minutes, I feel like that's another 90
Yeah,
minutes.
right there.
But we did it again. We did an hour
Wow.
and a half. You're now the champion.
Crazy.
No one else
I talk a lot.
has been on this show 3 times.
You just are like, oh no, it's definitely done. You just like know when things are over. You're like,
No, I feel like we literally could talk for several more hours, but
Yes.
I just don't know that anyone would listen to it at all.
no.
I'm not Joe Rogan. I'm not gonna get 3 hours of viewers. It's just not gonna happen.
I mean, even with Joe Rogan, I speed through some of it. I'm just like,
For sure.
or I listen to the whole thing while cleaning.
Depends,
you know,
yeah,
like,
it depends on what it is and
a
where it is.
good-
Also, we're very good looking, and no one's going to get to see us during this. So that's going to lose us a lot of people who are
yeah.
like, we can only hear them, and who knows how pretty we sound.
Right. Well, darn.
Not us.
So I've been reading about
Megan West is a 2013 graduate of the School of Drama. At the Elephants is produced, hosted, and edited by Rob Morris in Silver Lake, California.